Why airplane food tastes different feels normal, but it is rarely accidental, and the structure behind it changes everything. When a meal arrives on your tray table tasting like salted cardboard, the instinct is to blame the kitchen. We assume the airline bought the cheapest ingredients available, or that mass-producing thousands of meals inherently ruins the recipe. The food genuinely does taste worse than it would if you ate it on the ground, but the chefs designing these menus haven't forgotten how to season a chicken breast. Instead, the meal you eat at 35,000 feet is performing exactly as intended. It is a highly optimized aerospace product, engineered to survive an extreme gauntlet of physical, biological, and economic constraints. The degradation of your meal starts with the cabin environment. Commercial jets cruise miles above the Earth, where the atmosphere is too thin to breathe. To compensate, the interior is pressurized to simulate an elevation of around 8,000 feet. Pumping air from outside into the cabin creates an incredibly harsh microclimate. The relative humidity drops below 12%, making the air you breathe significantly drier than the Sahara Desert. That severe lack of moisture instantly dehydrates your nasal passages. Since your olfactory system handles about 80% of what you perceive as flavor, this dryness effectively blocks odor molecules from reaching your receptors. This chart illustrates the exact toll that altitude takes on your taste buds. Under those specific cabin conditions, your ability to detect sweet and salty flavors drops by up to 30%. Before the flight attendant even hands you a foil-wrapped tray, your own body's reaction to the atmosphere has walled off your ability to taste it. The atmosphere isn't the only variable fighting against your palate. The cabin is filled with a constant roar of engine noise, hovering around 85 decibels. Look at the chorda tympani nerve, which transmits taste from your tongue through your middle ear. The jet engine's intense vibration mechanically stimulates this exact pathway, dampening sweet and salty signals. Curiously, it amplifies umami, the rich, savory flavor found in mushrooms, cheese, and meat. This neural crosswiring perfectly explains why airlines serve massive volumes of tomato juice to passengers who would rarely drink it on the ground. The heavy concentration of glutamates in tomatoes slices right through the sensory blockages. The background hum of the aircraft is actively overriding your nervous system, literally rewiring your sensory preferences as you fly. Supplying thousands of these meals requires an industrial assembly line. Caterers prepare the food in massive commissary kitchens near the airport, often 10 to 24 hours before departure. To comply with strict food safety regulations, proteins are only partially cooked and then rapidly blast-chilled. Maintaining this unbroken cold chain is mandatory to prevent foodborne illness during transit. The final cooking phase happens on board, where flight attendants load the chilled trays into the galley's convection ovens. These units circulate hot, aggressively dry air to finish cooking the proteins, bleeding even more moisture from the ingredients. Every decision in this process is ultimately governed by physics and finance. Every ounce of weight added to an aircraft directly increases the amount of fuel required to reach the destination. The margins are razor thin. In the 1980s, American Airlines calculated the exact weight and cost of a single olive in their first-class salads. Removing just one olive per plate saved the company $40,000 a year in fuel. Delicate culinary techniques simply cannot survive this environment. To make it to your tray table, a dish must endure hours in a refrigerator, survive a high-powered convection oven, and weigh as close to zero as mathematically possible. The financial pressure dictating these menus tracks back to a specific legislative signature in 1978, when the United States government deregulated the airline industry. Prior to this, air travel was heavily subsidized and sold as an exclusive luxury experience. Deregulation stripped those protections away, turning flights into a commoditized utility where airlines had to fiercely compete on ticket prices to survive. To win the price war on fare aggregator websites, carriers slashed their variable costs. Catering budgets were reduced to provide a meal that is just adequate enough to prevent formal complaints, a strategy known as satisficing. This graphic maps the economic trap that followed. Passengers learned to expect uninspiring food, so they stopped factoring meal quality into their ticket purchases. With customers ignoring the food, airlines have zero financial incentive to increase the catering budget. By consistently sorting flights by the lowest possible price, the consumer market actively votes to maintain this exact tier of food. The foil-wrapped tray handed to you in economy class is performing flawlessly. It balances the strict thermodynamic demands of the cabin, the biological limitations of your own nervous system, and the ruthless margins of global logistics. So the effect is not random, it is structural. And now you see it a little more clearly.